I stared at the lawyer's email for the third time that morning, my coffee gone cold in my hands. The number on the screen made my vision blur. $1.8 million. My grandmother's entire estate, left directly to me. Just me. Not to my ex-husband Michael, not to his mother Karen, just to me, Ashley. I should have known it was too good to be true. My phone buzzed before I could even process what I was reading. A text from Michael. "We need to talk about Grandma's will. Call me." Then another from Karen, his mother. "Sweetheart, I'm coming by tonight. We have things to discuss." My stomach dropped. They already knew. That was 3 days ago. Now, sitting in my kitchen on a Tuesday morning in early October, I was about to learn just how far the people closest to me would go to get their hands on money that wasn't theirs. Let me back up, because to understand how we got here, you need to understand what my life looked like before everything fell apart. I'd been married to Michael for 9 years. 9 good years. Or at least they felt that way. We'd met at a marketing conference in Chicago back in 2015. I was presenting on digital strategy, he was in the audience, and he waited for me after my talk to ask me out. Smooth, confident, with dark eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. I fell for him hard and fast. We bought our house in suburban Illinois in 2017, a 3-bedroom colonial with a front porch and a detached garage. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. I'd saved for a down payment for years, and Michael contributed what he could from his job in commercial real estate. The mortgage was manageable, the neighborhood was quiet, and I thought I'd found my person. My grandmother, Dorothy, had always been my rock. She was 92 when she passed away last month, still sharp as a tack, still making her famous pecan pie every Thanksgiving. She and I were close in a way that was rare. While my parents lived in Arizona and saw me maybe twice a year, Grandma Dorothy lived 40 minutes away in a small house she'd owned since 1978. I visited her every Sunday without fail. We'd sit in her kitchen, drink tea, and she'd tell me stories about her life, about my grandfather, about the Depression, about how she'd learned to make every dollar stretch. When she got sick in August, I was the one who took her to her appointments. Michael had work stuff that kept him busy. Karen, his mother, called once to ask how Dorothy was doing, then never followed up. But I didn't think much of it. That's just how they were. My family, my responsibility. Dorothy died peacefully in her sleep on September 15th. The funeral was small, just me, Michael, Karen, my parents who flew in from Phoenix, and a handful of Dorothy's old friends. Michael put his arm around me during the service. Karen brought a casserole to the reception. Everything seemed normal. The reading of the will happened 2 weeks later, on a gray Friday afternoon. My lawyer, Patricia, sat across from me in her office downtown and explained what Dorothy had done. The house was paid off, worth about $650,000. She had investments, savings, and a life insurance policy that named me directly as beneficiary. When Patricia told me the total, my hands went numb. She was very clear about this, Patricia said, sliding the document across her desk. Dorothy specifically stated in her notes that she wanted you to have the financial security she never had. She lived through 2 recessions, raised a family on a teacher's salary, and spent her life being careful. She wanted you to be free. I read the letter Grandma had written. My vision blurred. To my precious Ashley, I'm leaving you everything because you've always been the one who understood what matters. Not money for its own sake, but security, peace of mind, the ability to make choices in your life that aren't dictated by fear. Use this wisely. Love, Grandma. I cried right there in Patricia's office. That night, I told Michael. We were sitting on the couch watching the news, and I just blurted it out. I should have known something was wrong by the way his whole body went still. How much? He asked, not looking at me. 1.8 million, I said quietly. He turned to face me. His expression was unreadable, not happy, not sad. Something else, something hungry. That's significant, he said. We should talk to a financial advisor about investments, real estate opportunities. Something in his tone made my skin crawl, but I pushed the feeling down. This was my husband, the man I'd spent 9 years building a life with. I want to think about it, I said. It doesn't feel real yet. He nodded, but I could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. He reached over and squeezed my knee, and his smile didn't reach his eyes. That's when the first real chill ran down my spine. The moment I realized that nothing was going to be the same. The next 2 weeks were a nightmare I didn't see coming. Michael started small. A casual comment over breakfast about how my inheritance could really secure our future. Our future, he said, not mine. Then he brought home a pamphlet from a financial advisor he'd apparently already consulted without asking me. His name was Derek, and according to Michael, Derek had incredible opportunities in commercial real estate that could triple my money in 5 years. We should at least listen to what he has to say, Michael said, leaving the pamphlet on the kitchen counter. I didn't respond. Something in my gut was screaming at me, but I was trying to be reasonable. We were married. Shouldn't we make big financial decisions together? Then Karen showed up on a Saturday morning without calling first. She stood on my porch in her designer sunglasses and a cashmere cardigan, holding a Whole Foods bag like it was a golden ticket. I was still in my yoga pants and hadn't even had coffee yet. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry about Dorothy," she said, pushing past me into the house. "What a tragedy. But listen, we need to talk about something important." She didn't ask to sit down. She just walked into my kitchen like she owned it and started pulling out containers of prepared salad and organic chicken breast. Karen had never brought me food before. In 9 years of marriage, she'd never once shown up unannounced to help. "Your mother-in-law and I have been thinking," she continued, unpacking the groceries with theatrical flourish. "Michael mentioned the inheritance. Obviously, that's wonderful for you, but you need to understand something about this family." I stood against the counter, arms crossed. "Okay. We have responsibilities. Michael works hard, but commercial real estate is unpredictable. The market could shift at any moment. He needs security. A safety net." She turned to face me, and her smile was cold. "And frankly, with that kind of money, it's irresponsible not to share it with the family that supports you." The words hit me like a slap. "Karen, that money is from my grandmother. It has nothing to do with Michael or this family." "Oh, but it does," she said smoothly. "You're part of this family now, and family takes care of family. Michael mentioned you might want to put some of it into a joint investment account. Something safe, something that benefits both of you." My hands were shaking. "Michael said that?" "He's being polite about it, bless him. He doesn't want to seem greedy." She smiled like she'd just delivered the most reasonable statement in the world. "But between you and me, Ashley, he's been carrying a lot of financial stress. The mortgage, his car payment, the credit card debt from when his business venture didn't work out a few years ago. A little help from his wife wouldn't be unreasonable." I felt my chest tighten. Michael had credit card debt? He'd never mentioned that. We'd always kept our finances separate. That had been his idea, actually. He said it was healthier for couples to maintain independence. "I need to talk to Michael," I said quietly. "Of course you do, sweetie. Just remember, family comes first." She left 30 minutes later, leaving the salad containers on my counter and a trail of expensive perfume in her wake. That evening, I confronted Michael in our bedroom. He was getting ready for bed, unbuttoning his shirt, and for the first time in 9 years, he looked like a stranger to me. "Did you tell your mother that I should put money into a joint account?" I asked. He froze. "I mentioned that it might be smart financially." "Without talking to me first?" "I was going to talk to you," he said, turning to face me. I wanted to understand the situation first. Karen's husband is an accountant. She knows about these things." "Michael, that's my inheritance. From my grandmother. It's not family money." His jaw tightened. You're my wife. We're a team. I thought. He stopped himself. What? You thought what? I thought when something good happened to you, it would mean something good for us. His voice was quiet, almost hurt. But I guess I was wrong. He got into bed and turned his back to me. I stood there in the darkness, feeling like I was losing my mind. Had I been unfair? Was I supposed to just hand over my inheritance to my husband and his mother? I called Patricia, my lawyer, at 8 in the morning the next day. I need your advice on something, I said. If I'm married and I inherit money, does my husband have any legal claim to it? There was a pause on the other end. Ashley, why are you asking? Just answer the question, please. No, Patricia said firmly. An inheritance is separate property. It belongs entirely to you, regardless of marital status. However, and this is important, if you commingle those funds with marital assets, things get complicated. Keep it separate, in a separate account, in your name only. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and made a decision. I opened a new bank account at a different bank from the one Michael and I used together. I had the inheritance transferred there. Then I called Patricia and asked her to help me understand my options. Are you thinking about a divorce? She asked gently. I don't know, I said, but I want to be protected. That was the moment everything changed. Because unbeknownst to me, Michael had already taken action. 2 days later, I got a call from my mortgage lender. They were questioning a recent application for a home equity line of credit. Apparently, Michael had applied for a HELOC on our house, the house that I'd put the down payment on with my own savings, for $200,000. My blood went cold. There must be a mistake, I told the lender. I didn't authorize that. It says here both spouses are on the mortgage, the representative said carefully. He has the right to apply, but we wanted to verify with you before proceeding, since the amount is substantial. I hung up and immediately called Michael at work. He didn't pick up. I called again. Nothing. I texted him, "Call me now." He texted back 5 minutes later. "I'm in a meeting. What's wrong?" "Did you apply for a HELOC on our house?" The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "We can talk about this tonight." That night, Michael came home late. He smelled like whiskey and cologne that wasn't his own. I was sitting at the kitchen table, my laptop open to the lender's email, when he walked in. "Why did you apply for a line of credit without telling me?" I asked. He set his briefcase down slowly, deliberately. "Because I knew you'd say no." The honesty of it was stunning. I couldn't even respond. "Ashley, I'm drowning in debt," he continued, sitting down across from me. "That business I started 5 years ago? It failed. I lost $60,000. I've been paying it off quietly, but the minimum payments are killing me. I thought if we could get a HELOC, consolidate everything, we could start fresh." "You should have told me," I said. "Why? So you could judge me? So you could remind me that you were right to keep your finances separate from mine?" His voice was getting louder. "I'm your husband, Ashley. I'm supposed to provide for this family. And instead, I'm the one who can't even manage his own money. That's not fair. I never said—" "You didn't have to say anything. I can see it in your face every time we talk about money. You think I'm a failure." "I don't think that." "You do. And now you have proof, don't you? $1.8 million and a husband who's in debt up to his ears. That must be so satisfying for you." He stood up and walked out of the kitchen. I heard the front door slam. He didn't come home that night. The next morning, I called Patricia again. "I think I need to talk about separation," I said. "Okay," she said. "Here's what you need to know. Illinois is a community property state for marital assets. Anything you acquired during the marriage is subject to division. However, the inheritance is separate property. But, and this is crucial, you need to document everything. That HELOC application, any communications about it, anything that shows he was trying to access marital assets without your consent." What about the house? The house is marital property. Both your names are on the mortgage. In a divorce, it would typically be sold or one of you would buy out the other's equity. But here's the thing. He's trying to take out a HELOC against it without your permission. That's a problem. We might be able to argue that he was trying to commit fraud against you. I felt sick. I also need to tell you something, Patricia said. I'm going to recommend that you file for divorce first, before he does. It gives you a legal advantage. And given that he's taking financial actions without your consent, I'd recommend we file an emergency motion to freeze the home equity line of credit before it's approved. Can you do that? Absolutely. Trust me, Ashley. I've handled cases like this before. You're not the first wife to discover her husband was planning to raid the marital assets. I filed for divorce on a Thursday in October. Patricia filed an emergency motion simultaneously to block the HELOC. Michael was served at his office. When he came home that evening, his face was purple with rage. "You're destroying this family," he shouted, waving the papers at me. "You're destroying me." "You did this," I said quietly. "You lied. You tried to take out debt against our house without my permission. You told your mother she had a right to my inheritance." "Because she's my mother, and I'm your husband. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" "It means you should have been honest with me. Instead, you snuck around like I was your enemy instead of your partner." He left again. This time, he didn't come back for 3 days. When he did, he had Karen with him. They stood in my living room like they owned the place, and Karen was holding a folder. "We've been talking to an attorney," Karen said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "And we understand that you're claiming the inheritance as separate property, but we have some questions about that." Patricia had warned me about this. Don't engage, don't explain. "I'm not discussing this without my lawyer present," I said. "Fine," Michael said coldly. "My attorney will be in touch." The next 6 weeks were a blur of depositions, document requests, and legal maneuvering. Michael's attorney, a shark named Robert Kellerman who worked out of a downtown high-rise, came at me hard. He requested my bank statements, my communications with Patricia, even my therapy notes from a therapist I'd started seeing to deal with the stress of the divorce. But Patricia was better. The turning point came in November, when Patricia's investigator uncovered something during the discovery process. Michael had been sending emails to Karen about the inheritance before my grandmother even died. In one email, dated August 22nd, when Dorothy was still alive, still in the hospital, Michael had written, "Once the estate settles, we need to move fast. Ashley's not going to want to share, so we need a plan to make her see reason." I read that email 3 times. Each time, I felt something inside me harden. "This is good," Patricia said, reading over my shoulder. "This shows premeditation. He was planning this before Dorothy even passed away. This destroys his credibility." But there was more. Michael's credit card statements showed that he'd been paying for Karen's salon appointments, her country club membership, and her car insurance for years. Thousands of dollars a month that he'd been hiding from me. And there were credit card applications in his name only, run up to nearly $200,000. "He's been lying about the amount of debt he's in," Patricia explained. "It's much worse than he told you. This is relevant because it shows his motive for wanting access to your inheritance." Then came the email that changed everything. Patricia's investigator found a thread between Michael and Karen discussing me. In one particularly brutal exchange, Karen had written, "She's always been selfish. Even as a girlfriend, she never appreciated what Michael did for her. Now she's sitting on nearly $2 million and acting like we're trying to steal from her. She needs to understand that family obligations come first." Michael's response: "I know. I've been thinking about whether I should try to get her to add me to the account, or if we should just pursue it through the divorce settlement. What does your attorney say?" I felt like I couldn't breathe when Patricia showed me that. "Ashley, I need to ask you something," Patricia said. "Do you want to settle this, or do you want to fight?" I thought about 9 years of my life. I thought about Sunday dinners with my grandmother. I thought about the letter Dorothy had written me, telling me she wanted me to have security and peace of mind. "I want to fight," I said. The deposition happened on a cold Tuesday in November. Michael and Karen were both there, along with their attorney. Patricia and I sat across from them in a conference room on the 32nd floor of a downtown office building. Michael looked tired. Karen looked angry. Patricia started with Michael. She went through his finances methodically. The failed business, the credit card debt, the hidden accounts, all of it. His face got redder and redder as she laid out the timeline. So, to clarify, Patricia said, you are planning to convince your wife to share her inheritance with you before your grandmother-in-law had even died. Is that correct? I wasn't planning anything, Michael said, his voice tight. I was just discussing options with my mother. Options? Patricia pulled out the email. You wrote, and I quote, "We need a plan to make her see reason." What did you mean by that? Michael's attorney objected. Patricia didn't care. She kept going. You've also accumulated approximately $200,000 in personal debt without your wife's knowledge. You attempted to take out a home equity line of credit against marital property without her consent. You misrepresented the amount of your debt to your wife. You solicited your mother's help in convincing your wife to share her separate property. And you did all of this while your wife was grieving the loss of her grandmother. Isn't that correct? Michael didn't answer. His attorney told him not to. Then Patricia turned to Karen. Mrs. Patterson, you are not a party to this divorce. You're here as a witness. Do you understand? Karen nodded coldly. In your email dated September 18th, you wrote that your daughter-in-law needs to understand that family obligations come first. What did you mean by that? I meant that family is important, Karen said stiffly. Family is important, Patricia repeated. So important that you felt entitled to your daughter-in-law's inheritance from her own grandmother? I never said I was entitled to it. No, but your son did, and you encouraged him to pursue it. You even went to her home and suggested she put money into a joint account. Isn't that correct? Karen's face went white. I was just trying to help. Help yourself, you mean, Patricia said quietly. Because according to your son's credit card statements, you've been receiving approximately $5,000 a month from him for the past 3 years. Money he didn't have, money he was borrowing. And now that he knows his wife has an inheritance, suddenly you're very interested in family obligations. The room was silent. I have nothing further, Patricia said, sitting down. Michael's attorney tried to salvage things, but it was too late. The damage was done. Patricia had shown the court, and more importantly, shown me, exactly who these people were. Not family. Predators. The divorce was finalized on January 15th. Michael got the house, but he had to buy out my equity, which came to $375,000. He was ordered to pay my legal fees, $12,000. The court found that his attempt to take out the HELOC without my consent constituted fraud, and his credibility was destroyed. The inheritance remained entirely mine. He appealed, of course, but the appeal went nowhere. As for Karen, she disappeared from his life fairly quickly after that. Turns out, when the money dried up, so did her interest in being his mother. According to Michael's own testimony during the proceedings, she stopped calling after the deposition. I found that almost sad. Almost. I kept the inheritance in that separate account, exactly where Patricia had advised me to put it. I took my time deciding what to do with it. I paid off my student loans. I made a donation to the hospital where my grandmother had spent her final days. I bought a condo downtown, small, modern, entirely mine. And I put the rest into conservative investments that made my financial advisor smile. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting in a coffee shop downtown when I saw Michael across the street. He was getting out of a beat-up Honda Civic. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. He saw me at the same moment, and for just an instant, our eyes met. Then he looked away and kept walking. I finished my coffee and went home to my quiet condo. I poured myself a glass of wine and called Patricia. "How are you doing?" she asked. "Better," I said. "I'm doing better." "Good. You should be proud of yourself, Ashley. A lot of women in your situation would have given in. would have let guilt or fear push them into sharing what wasn't theirs to share. I just kept thinking about what my grandmother wrote, I said. She wanted me to have security and peace of mind, to make choices that weren't dictated by fear. That's what I did. That's exactly what you did, Patricia agreed. I never remarried. I never wanted to. But I also didn't become bitter. I learned to trust my instincts again. And every Sunday, I still made tea and sat in my kitchen, remembering the woman who taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is say no to the people who are trying to take from you. Because in the end, that inheritance wasn't just about money. It was about Dorothy's final gift to me, the knowledge that I was worth protecting. And that was priceless.